welcome back for the last time today for the Hearthstone Global Games. We have a very happy production team behind the scenes as their pick, Poland, did just beat Belgium, but now it's time for one of Dan Gaskin's picks, Ukraine, to take on Croatia. Lorinda, what do you think about this matchup in terms of the teams themselves?
So in terms of the teams themselves, on paper at least, it is a mismatch. Ukraine, one of the best teams in the world. Croatia, a team, if we had to draft the teams that weren't going to do well, they'd be on the list. However,
ouch.
You've got to, I mean, we can't just say every team's great, right? Croatia are one of the lesser known teams in this tournament. However, Croatia last time fought to the bitter end. They are very powerful in terms of their morale, and the team is a lot better than it was this time last year as well.
I think these teams are pretty insane, actually.
They are pretty insane.
Insane.
Absolutely insane teams. And Croatia, I feel, with that mismatch against them, I still feel that they've got a chance of winning this. They put in a lot of time into the tournament. I mean, for instance, Magic himself, his last name, basically ZYYZA is an abbreviation of his last name, which I'm not going to insult the nation by trying to say. But he's a business student, doesn't have too much time for Hearthstone. He's got a massive passion, really wants to do his part in putting the Balkans on the map. I asked them why they're going to win. They're going to win because they've just spent 2 days celebrating coming second in the World Cup, and they are ready for more success. I also asked Neveya from Ukraine why they're going to win, and his answer was, we have Kalento.
And that is as good an answer as any. Kalento, for the longest time, considered one of the best players in the world. Back in 2014, 2015, I think for a long time he was considered the best player in the world with the longest run of top results. Since then, we've had some other players achieve some great things. We've had Pavel with a long streak. We've now had Hunter Ace with his streak. But Kalento was the OG top player in the world.
Yeah, and he still may be one of the best. He may be underrated these. Let's have a look at how the ban phase went down.
Druid banned first time. This is sort of the default that I think of when I think of this format. Subtle mentioned that first thing today. Malygos Druid is just one of the strongest decks, so get rid of that immediately. How this has worked out, though, is some aggressive decks from Ukraine side versus some decks, I think, that aren't so good at handling the aggression on Croatia's side.
Yeah, Ukraine with a lot more experience in tournament formats in general. Interesting to see that Shaman was actually left till the very last there, which is always fascinating to me.
Oh, the last deck chosen?
Yeah. Like, that's the worst deck in theory there for Ukraine. The Shaman going all the way down. We're keeping an eye on that bottom deck because what we found last year is that one or two of the classes were just significantly worse than the others. Keeping an eye out for that happening this year. So far, there is no pattern at all, other than maybe Druid getting banned a lot at the top.
That's true. And I agree with you about the Shaman. Like, you'd consider Shadowwalk Shaman to be one of these decks that, sure, it's got its weaknesses, but it tends to beat a lot of matchups consistently. Let's see how this series is actually going to shape up, though. Lavak versus Kalento himself, starting out with Evenlock versus Zoo.
Oh no, it's happened, Dan.
What's happened?
The Rogue Mirror is not just a Rogue Mirror, it's an insane Rogue Mirror. We've got to find a way to cast this Hearthstone game that's going to make any sense.
Insane, and I have a feeling, unfortunately, that this series might be insanely one-sided.
It's not the 3 mirror matches it looks like, right?
It's not the mirror matches that it looks like. Again, like I said a moment ago, we've got Ukraine on the Even Warlock versus Croatia on the Zoo. Later on, we've got the Rogue Mirror, which is actually Odd Rogue for Ukraine versus Miracle Rogue for Croatia. Another good matchup for Ukraine. And the Quest Warrior Mirror is actually just a Quest Warrior Mirror.
Yeah, Croatia, they're all in the same room. I remember last year that the team got together a lot in a room that was provided for them.
Right.
Kalento there is not all on his own. He's not quite that godlike. He has got people in his ear helping him out if required.
I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he just pressed F and just played the game himself.
That wouldn't surprise me either.
I think he does.
Shut up.
I think he does that in interviews as well, actually, if I remember rightly. But Kalento, cannot say enough good things about him. He's got the good matchup as well. I would expect this first game to go a very specific way. And as I was saying a moment ago, when you look through the entire series, it's difficult to spot where Croatia can actually find their way to win. Some of these matchups are a little bit closer than others. We did see a Zoo Warlock almost take down an Even Warlock earlier, but all in all, it's going to be a very steep uphill climb for Croatia.
Yeah, I hope they do get a good result out of this year, though. Last year, like I say, they had it was group stages. They were out of the groups on like 0-3, and they still put everything they had into the last match. That sort of thing. I'd love to see that. They really want to put their state on the map, so let's see how they go about it. The whole of the Balkans, of course, what they want to improve.
So looking at Lavec's Warlock, it's also not running Tomb Guards. Again, following this conversation.
I mean, that is the standard build, is to
Yeah.
not have it. It's just something I find fascinating, that most decks are not topping out at 5 and running the best 5 drop in Hearthstone. Probably.
That's a bold statement.
Okay, prove me wrong.
I mean, the stats are...
Change my mind.
The stats are probably the best.
12. That's a lot. Right. See if Croatia can get the fast start that they need.
Calento going to one again. The key tools we pointed out earlier, the Hellfires, the Defiles. Unlike the matchup that we had before, where there were 2 Hellfires present and later on 2 Defiles present, Calento hasn't drawn any of those tools, though that's a big smile on that man's face.
It is. He's got a pretty handy early hand here to slow everything down. Something I take a little bit of issue with, but not a huge amount, when you say he used to be one of the best players in the world.
Okay.
I think in terms of playing the game of Hearthstone, he's still one of the best in the world.
I agree.
He just maybe doesn't play as much on the tournament scene anymore, so maybe he wouldn't necessarily be the best at bringing a lineup anymore.
He focuses on his stream, I think, more than anything. But last year, if I remember rightly, he one-shot his way to champs.
Right, and this season, I think he played 1 tour stop qualifier and finished like sort of top 2 or top 4 in a 1-slot qualifier. So he was very nearly qualified in his 1 attempt at a tour stop this year. Yeah, his percentage is absolutely ginormous. Anyway, Croatia have got at least the hand they would want if they're going to have a chance in this, but unfortunately for them, so have Ukraine.
Yeah. The issue for Ukraine is, again, there's just no clear-cut way of clearing this board just yet. No Keleseth for Croatia as well. We pointed out earlier during this matchup, that's one of the key cards that can swing it the other way, turning all of these minions that are 3/3s into 4/4s.
But as we've discussed a couple of times, Zoo is no longer... Look at an old-school Abusive Sergeant on this turn. If your Abusive Sergeant is Flame Imp and then play Light Ward, and you'd get the board, but the 3/2's got to do it on its own to some extent.
I sense you.
Don't see Death Speaker very often, do we?
It sneaks in and out. It sneaks in and out. That's kind of the new style equivalent of buffing your minion, but unfortunately a 3/2 still doesn't kill a 2/4 no matter how much immune you give it.
So tell me, Lorinda, how does Zoo Warlock play around Reaver?
Carefully.
Job's done.
You've got to decide, so don't put them to exactly 17 going into turn 5, so they're going to be on 15 and play it. Either do lots of damage or tiptoe a little bit for some situations for 1 turn. I think the point is, hope they don't have it and Spellbreaker it if they do.
Yep.
I think people overestimate playing around it, but also it's there, it's a thing that you need to know exists, and if you're going to miss 1 point of damage to stop them tapping into it, then maybe you can miss 1 point here and there at times.
I mean, we saw earlier the team, they set up the board so that Fungal Mancer would just clear Hooked Reaver straight away.
Right.
And it did, and again, that was almost the push that they needed. Philippines, that is.
Yeah.
The team.
And again, now Calento has a Hellfire, but he's not been under any pressure particularly yet, so he's going to try and be as greedy as possible here. Is it worth it? Is it not? Like, Twilight Drake looks pretty tasty, but because to play the Twilight Drake against Spellbreaker, you clear the way for potential Hooked Reaver on later turns anyway, and that's going to be much harder to deal with. Haven't seen Calento talking much, by the way.
Hopefully he's listening a lot and not just playing the game on his own.
That is something we've seen from the top players. I mentioned this earlier, is that they seem to be very good listeners.
It's fine, he's talking now.
Okay.
There is some communication going on here. Like, I don't think it's not
Who
allowed.
do we play next week? And so Lavec's already got to start planning. This is probably where you start thinking about what you're going to do about the fact that Hooked Reaver is a Hearthstone card. Your Spellbreaker here can only destroy 1 thing. It's fantastic, of course, against this Drake, and this Drake's going to tear through your lineup if you're not careful. But yeah, if you don't deal with it, it's going to kill your minions. This is the problem that Zoo has in this matchup. You've got too many things to worry about.
I mean, Twilight Drake is as good a target as any for the silence, isn't it? Reducing its health down to 1 is invaluable. Luckily for Croatia, that Mountain Giant is just out of playable range at the moment. So's that one, funnily enough.
but they're just not in any sort of danger right
No.
now.
There's a Hellfire in hand now, there's a Hooked Reaver to back stuff up later. And Kalento can just go ahead and trade away the Spellbreaker here and not worry too much.
Yeah. What can he worry about? Not a lot at all.
So many.
But with that in mind, so you're not going to worry, but how do you develop any sort of board is one of his problems here. So if you don't want to Hellfire, you want to save that for a later board clear because this board's not menacing enough. But if you don't do it now, you have no other good Hearthstone play. So I think with that in mind, he decided, okay, I don't particularly like using it here, but I can clear something with Argent Commander next turn, maybe get into my Giants fairly soon as well. I'm absolutely fine. Hooked Reaver will shore things up as well.
At the moment, it's looking like, you know, he's going to need to focus on the big late game, big Giants, Hooked Reavers to just single-handedly take back the board. The struggle is going to be playing these Giants in a way that don't just get him killed straight after. These Light Wardens actually have the ability to do a lot of work.
Yeah, this is a scary board for Kalento to deal with because we can see they aren't going to get much done. There's a Life Drinker, they'll get buffed to 3/2s, that's nice and all, but sure. But where he's at,
that can't be dealt with.
He's got to worry about if they're 5/2s that can't be dealt with. Yeah, that's a significant possibility here in this deck.
Or 7/2s, or 9/2s.
Yeah,
They can get there.
Sure. Keep going. Yeah.
11/2s.
I don't think it'll be
13/2s,
11/2s to be fair.
15/2s.
You got this nailed. Good at this.
Yeah, I mean, I've healing rained too many times with them on my opponent's side of the board. I know the number.
So Kalento taps into Defile, which means he can clear, of course, anytime he wants to now with the Zealot. But he's going to work out if he can establish a Mountain Giant, I should think.
Tainted Zealot plus Defile is certainly an option here. Just to clear away the whole board. Zealot, Defile. The problem is then he's used up the remaining board clear. But then again, this might be the last turn he needs to do that, and then from next turn onwards he can drop Hooked Reaver, drop Mountain Giants, taunt them up, and
he could probably infer a little bit about the opposing hand from how it's been played. He probably knows there isn't too much healing in hand because the Light Wardens were kept back for a couple of turns. So he is going to clear up. He feels absolutely comfortable just going to Hooked Reaver next turn, tap into the 15 as you said, and just safe from there on in. Also clearing up, like, a good job he did because Fungalmancer would have started to take over the game a little bit.
I did like that board clear, I have to admit, and now just for that very reason, it's just safe against everything, and next turn he should be good to just put a big minion on the board. He can go Mountain Giant plus Sun Fury Protector, or he can go tap Hooked Reaver, both seem good. In fact, tap Hooked Reaver can be followed up by the Doomsayer.
Yeah, ever since I watched Zump at DreamHack Winter playing Control Warlock, I've tried not to use removal anytime I have it in any deck ever. And obviously, you just look at the board and say, okay, that's a nice clear. And then you think, but how can I not do that? Is there another way? And
Gotcha.
I feel that's exactly how, when you're, especially in a deck like this, when you have limited removal, how you have to approach every turn. If you can find another way that's convenient, you do it.
Well, it's interesting because Kalento didn't necessarily have to play that board clear last turn. I guess it's finding that moment to make the switch around, to stop using removal and start putting pressure on the board.
For instance, if he played the Mountain Giant, he'd have to have ended up killing itself the next turn anyway, and that sort of thing. So it's trying to establish something on the board and then clear on the next turn that is the trick to really winning. But if that's not there, the old-fashioned just kill everything play is perfectly fine.
Even here, I don't. Like, Argent Commander doesn't look horrible to just trade into one of these and put a 4/2 on the board. This is a little bit better, I think. Giant plus Taunt, but he's got Hooked Reaver plus Doomsayer. If things get out of control the following turn, there's no Black Knight or anything in these decks. Does Croatia run 1 Spellbreaker or 2? I'm going to just check that right now. They only run 1 and it's been used.
Yep.
So there's just no risk.
Absolutely, just plop everything big onto the board and just start defending. Use these taunts as removal from now on. They're removing your opponent's cards, not necessarily just the minions.
And again, that very quickly to highlight another reason that open deck lists is very different to closed deck lists. Just because Kalento knows 100% certain, he's seen the list, it only runs 1 Spellbreaker. There's no other way of removing this Mountain Giant.
And even a reminder here, there's probably somebody on the Ukraine team whose designated job is to shout, hey Kalento, if you're actually listening, there was only 1 Spellbreaker in the deck.
I'm sure that Kalento is listening. I think the team are taking it pretty seriously, actually. I had a chat with Old Boy a week or so ago, and he said he really likes the team. He thinks it's the strongest team they could have had in Ukraine. And they've named Nyria their captain.
Okay.
He's not the anchor, but they've named him the captain because they believe he's the strongest player. And
It's interesting, actually, because Old Boy's pretty strong himself
he
these
is,
days.
but he believes that Kalento and Naria particularly have so much experience that it should be a very straightforward tournament. And remember, Ukraine came second last year with a similar team.
Yeah, indeed. And just a couple of players there sort of weren't playing quite so much. They have been replaced, but Old Boy is a fantastic replacement player, as is They're Insane. One thing that
They're insane.
is easily overlooked about this Zoo deck is how much it has to ruin its own health total to stay in contention.
Yeah.
So the V-swing kill you play comes really quickly as soon as the Evil Warlock gets control.
Yeah, that's been pretty much the same in both.
Yeah.
Both the times we've seen this matchup today.
Zoo just doesn't get the chance to fight back.
Life Drinker is 6 extra damage.
It is
though,
interesting,
so,
right?
Funnily enough, Croatia's 5 off lethal right now, but the Hooked Reaver, there's no way of dealing with it, so that 4 damage can't be pushed to the face. And is there actually a way?
I mean, they can dump their entire hand. Do they die? They take 4, 5, 6, 13, 17. They don't die. And they splurge a load of attack onto the board.
You're right. Even with the Argent Commander, which obviously Levek can't see, but even with that, the 6 health that the Life Drinker will get, the Life Drinkers will restore, actually does pull them out of range. So last-ditch effort for Croatia. Kalento has not been able to buff his Spellstone yet, which at this point in time would be pretty helpful.
Worth knowing why they did those trades. They took control of their own 2/1s there to prevent any value trades. Yep. Also means that this Reaver does die to anything they have on the board.
It plays around Dread Infernal better, it plays around Defile better,
sure.
etc.
Obviously, the old-fashioned way of wording is you don't want to give your opponent's minion Wind Fury if you can help it, effectively letting it hit 3 of your minions for the price of 1.
Gotcha, yeah.
But when you're getting it to do what you want it to do, then of course you take that opportunity. So, plenty of ways to go about this. They've got to worry about Leroy, I believe. But they can just protect their minion. Everything should be absolutely fine. They've got so many cards in hand. They know they'll win if they just clear up here.
We've not seen a Soulfire yet from Croatia.
No, that's 4.
Yeah, but draw Soulfire, cast it, tap, draw the second Soulfire. That's an out.
Oh, I thought we saw one early on, actually.
If we've seen it, that makes a lot more sense.
Sure.
Because you'd expect Kalento to be playing around that.
Yeah, because he thinks he's in an unlosable position.
Yep.
Of course, he's Kalento. He thinks that all the time.
These cards are definitely not too powerful for Soulfire. However, these Soundite Chain Gangs are going to do a lot of work. There's no Soulfire, but that's also going to do a lot of work.
Yeah, the Ghoulman himself has come to play just in time. Love to draw him on turn 10. Seems a good time to do it. And now the difficulty with these turns with pro players, they spend forever looking for the way they can ever lose the game.
Yeah.
These are sort of the hardest plays because you have to find the one fringe case where you might possibly lose. So these turns tend to take longer than some of the more complicated turns in a lot of ways, because on the complicated turns you know when you've got the right answer.
Yeah.
On these it's like, I just don't know what's the one way I can lose this Hearthstone game.
So many possibilities.
Damn. I mean, just the 5 extra health.
Yeah.
Given that he's being backed up by this taunt as well. Soulfire into Leroy isn't enough damage even. There's 2 taunts thanks to the Homunculus that just respawned.
I think Kalento wins this 100% of the time, Dan.
Well, now he definitely does.
Chose my moment much more carefully than other people.
As big a smile as we're ever going to get from Kalento. As
a whimsical look.
Confidently takes down his opponent. That is 1-0 to Ukraine. I don't know what else to say. It was a favoured matchup. It was one of the best players in the world.
Croatia didn't seem to do anything silly or wrong. It's just one of those things that happens. That was just one of those Hearthstone games where the pick and ban phase coupled with a lineup phase has just, 1-0 down.
Gaskin going to be very happy, as production has just reminded me, of course. Ukraine was his pick, and with good reason. It's a good pick. 2 World Championship
Production have got more wins than me.
Even production, we're actually gonna see a full scoreboard later, so looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Let's take a look at the rest of the series coming up. Next up is the Taunt Warrior Mirror between Nuke and Irea. I am very much looking forward to this Rogue Mirror. That's going to be interesting to cast, Neil. Just insane versus insane.
Rogue Mirror. I mean, I just assumed that wouldn't happen and they'd have some decency not to put them against each other for us.
I would love to see it happen now. So for that reason, I don't really want to see Ukraine 3-0ing you.
You just want to see
Croatia. But this mirror match is important.
It really is.
As we've said at the start of this series, Ukraine is very favoured when it comes to the matchups in all of them except one, which makes the mirror match one of Croatia's best chances to actually get a win.
However, I've always felt that Kalento with this particular deck was just... I can't get the word insane out of my head. Was just really terrifically good at it, for want of using a really silly word other than insane.
Well,
and I would still give them a very good chance, and this is no offence to Croatia, I just think that Ukraine in general will have an edge in this just by pure weight of experience and skill. There is more skill to this matchup than meets the eye.
well, it's not strictly just Kalento playing this warrior.
No, but again, I mean, Neve is also a very good player with his deck.
Which
right?
just makes
Old
them
Boy
really
is just
strong.
a very good control mirror player.
Yeah. Just makes them even stronger, really, because it's just like another voice to sort of double check everything that's going on.
You know, you've done it. I've done it. We sat in rooms where there's 2 or 3 pros playing on a ladder or whatever, and it's just ridiculous. The things they can tune up in each other's play. It really does make the game very, very hard for the opponents.
One of the things Old Boy did say to me is that they believe that they can get an advantage because of good preparation.
Right. They've got that already.
What's funny is that at the time that I had this conversation with him, he also said to me, we haven't practiced anything yet.
That just doesn't surprise me.
Bit of an ironic, you know.
There was a DreamHack that Kalento won well in the interview afterwards. He just said, I didn't bet very well for this tournament. I was a bit upset with myself because I was busy playing something else for a while. And then he just turns up and wins. Must be nice.
They're a good team.
And I think the thing with Novea is he actually likes to take time off to keep himself fresh. I think that was a big thing that came up in HCT last year.
Yeah.
So it's not going to hurt. He's always in Twitch chats as well, watching. I mean,
Yeah.
you see Novea in every single chat.
But that's one of the things with
telling
him,
the pros
isn't
what
it?
they're doing wrong.
He watches a lot more Hearthstone than he plays and believes that he learns more that way. I think that's one of the big reasons in which Nairi is such a solid Hearthstone player. He's learned how to use his time as effectively as possible.
Yeah, if you intersperse watching critically with playing the decks yourself that you're trying to criticize, so you know why people have done something and then try and work out if it's right or wrong, rather than just watch somebody make a move and it looks, oh, that looks good.
Yeah.
You don't remember it that well. If you go and then play a couple of hours and then go back to it, and Novea functions on a very high level when he does that sort of stuff.
All right, so Militia Commander has been making her way into quite a few of these Taunt Warriors. The fact that Ukraine have done it kind of makes me think it's correct. It's not in Croatia's Taunt Warrior, though, so there are some slight differences in this mirror.
Very good piece of spot removal. Execute and Shield Slam both sort of not ideal in their own ways these days for various things like mana cost and just setting it up when you haven't got many useful minions.
Yep.
Obviously, they're still fantastic, but Militia Commander has that same... It's non-conditional, it's just play the card, kill a thing.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it's pretty handy, obviously. So Croatia not messing around. The old meme is still the best meme, that whoever gets the quest done first, in theory, has a pretty decent advantage. You're the one who starts shooting the opponent first. Whoever shoots the other one 4 times wins. Simple as that.
It's a very different matchup than it used to be back in the day, though, because one of the reasons that was a thing was that back then, the decks were pretty much just filled up with Taunt minions. And the idea was, complete the quest as fast as you can. Now, because of cards like Phantom Militia, a lot more of the deck is card draw and removal, which means a lot of this matchup sort of comes down to who is drawing Stonehill Defenders and Phantom Militias first.
Sure, that's absolutely fair. But if you can still play your early taunts on curve and all that, it's still really good news. There's still not enough real threats that your opponent can't remove them all. So you're going to get a lot of those shots into face. Things like preserving your brawl, all the old goodness there, so that you can try and get an extra shot to face guaranteed is still important.
I wonder.
But you can just see now, looking at this board, how Phantom Militia is going to come in handy. Even just to deal with the...
Militia Commander?
No, the Raptor Lady.
Raptor Lady?
Raptor, nice little raptors.
Oh, okay, the Corner Sentry.
That's the one. I could have just looked at the deck list, really, couldn't I?
Speak to me.
Yeah, all the screen.
what?
It's there on the bottom.
Oh, it's right. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. It's been a good day. Okay, so getting the Acolyte established into the Raptors was obviously a big deal for Croatia, trying to get as many cards as possible, like you described, to try and get these on curve taunts. But now, how can they stop Ukraine from drawing many cards? The answer is it doesn't look like they can. Without an execute, do you really want to execute this?
Kinda.
So yeah, the next question then becomes, what are the other execute targets? And the answer is there aren't many.
Yeah, well,
So you might be able to afford to.
That's precisely it. Like, casting an execute to prevent Ukraine from drawing a card might actually be worth it.
I must choose.
So they're going to slam and bump by the look of it, which means you both draw the same number of cards. You keep alive your Acolyte, and then next turn, if it's not dealt with, you have your Corner Sentry to create some more Raptors with which to gain more cards.
But again, back to the point I was making a moment ago about Militia Commander, just dropping it on this board doesn't seem too bad. It deals with the Raptor Lady, which is what I'm calling her for now. Deals with the Corner Sentry. Trades with the Acolyte well as well. Goes with the Saronite instead this turn, which
I mean, it's just a taunt minion on curve.
yeah.
Green is not a creative colour, Dan. But it's the colour that when it's lit up in this matchup, you tend to put your taunt on the board.
That's it. You've said that in the Hearthstone Global games now, Neil. That's it.
Got the full set.
Once in every tournament. We're done with that one now.
Okay, we can go back to turning up to 11. I'll find that for tomorrow.
But yeah, you're right. I guess I'm overthinking it. Just slam Saronite on 4 and that works fine.
Yeah, you don't need the card draw if the cards are in your hand that you need.
Yeah.
Basically. Because you're not going to kill each other with these. However, the chip damage, like I said earlier, is relevant. If you can get your opponent down to one of those factors of 8, you've effectively done an extra rag shot of damage.
Second Acolyte. So
their hand is kind of filling it with junk right now.
yeah. So what are the options to start getting rid of this junk? We've got Tarkeeper Coin Acolyte, I guess, but then there's no guarantee the Acolyte's going to be drawing any cards.
Yeah, they're a long way from completing the quest still. They only have the one taunt in hand, so I'd be tempted to try and draw cards off the Acolyte next turn, so establish the Blood Razor, maybe Acolyte next turn.
Okay. I'm going to go with that.
This is the same sort of thing. It's defending the Acolyte until the next turn, so you've seen one execute. Oh, you haven't seen the execute. You didn't do the end.
Well, yeah, and this is... after I suggested this play, I thought to myself, yeah, but isn't this just a little bit too weak to Brawl? I guess it's only weak to Brawl some of the time, but...
Is it weak to Brawl? I mean...
Only if the Tarkeeper wins, which is...
I think you want to save your Brawls until after you've completed the quest to force
win
those
the game
8
quickly, sure.
To force those 8s to home, yeah. Like, the card draw is important, but those shots guaranteed to face, if one of you is going it guaranteed twice and the other taking a 50-50 twice, you can see that's a massive difference.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're me, in which case it's exactly the same thing.
Wait. No, okay. I thought for a second, I saw Croatia hovering over that warpath for a second and thought, wait, is there a way he milled? No.
Just try to burn. That's the problem. There isn't anything worth burning.
Neri has been very careful about his hand size. That's the thing. There's only 6 cards in there, so even 3 warpaths is up to 9, and then the draw is for 10. It's been played very well. We may even see the triple warpath from Neyria this coming turn, as drawing cards in this matchup is just so important.
Yeah, 2 quests per piece right now, so like you said, it's not rattling along like you would hope if you were either team. And the longer it goes on, the more intricate it will become. So 2 taunts in hand for Croatia, no taunts in hand for Neyria.
That's the one. That's the Cornered Sentry.
Oh, Raptor Lady is there.
Raptor Lady. Sorry, Lorinda. Raptor Lady.
I prefer Cornered Sentry. It's easier for me to say. You know, it still has 2 R's in it.
What now?
Okay.
There's something about starting it off with the R that's just
Sure.
terrifying to me in front of all these people listening and watching. extremely self-conscious. Care so much. Croatia making the decision. Oh, sorry, Ukraine making the decision now as to how to get the maximum cards from this
What
acolyte. Is
now?
2 enough, or do you want to be greedy?
Guess 2's enough. I was almost wondering about Cornered Sentry and then the Blood Racer, but I guess the Cornered Sentry into Dry Whisker is just such a good combo.
It is, and also you can brawl as well, maybe on those turns for something a bit more special.
Yeah.
But they're happy with just the 2 cards. Got the Chain Gang, and they're good to play taunts for the foreseeable future.
How important is Scourge Lord Garrosh in this matchup? It doesn't seem to me as though it's going to do all that much.
I mean, it's chunky face damage. If somebody does happen to get a head on board, it's a safety net.
Yeah.
It's 5 extra armor, so it comes down to magic numbers a lot of the time, I think.
What's the magic number?
It depends. Like if your opponent's on 12, then you want a weapon that does 4, for instance.
4 is the magic number?
It could be. 7's a magic number sometimes.
None of these taunt minions are a magic number.
No. Stubborn Gastropod's pretty good. It doesn't cost much mana. There you go, it's pretty good.
That in of itself...
You just look at the top left corner and see which one's the cheapest.
That in of itself is a good reason. I mean, Stubborn Gastropod has been making its way into a variety of different even decks recently. Startle and Raven were saying earlier, you know, in different decks you want different types of cards from Stonehill Defender, and in Taunt Warrior you tend to want the cheap one.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice little
if you talk about who does it first, they equalise at 3-all. Bet they wish they'd done that on Sunday. And it's...
Taunt minions are just a means to an end in this deck.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if you can get this sort of board, the chip damage can become irritating. It's not essential by any means, but it's certainly... You can't let it get any more than sort of 3 or 4 per turn. Otherwise, it does get through those extra shots, because it is all about... You probably will both complete your quest, so it is about who gets the most shots.
I wonder.
Can't say for sure. It looks to me like they're in the same arena they were in last time when they were playing as well.
It does, doesn't it?
It's really nice of the sponsors there to give them an arena to play their national game in. It really helps a lot, I think, especially for some of the smaller teams.
Yeah.
To have somewhere to gather and have a social event out of it, as well as play some high-level Hearthstone.
Just a nice, clean, distraction-free place to play as a team and to prepare and everything. Seems great. And there we go. There's the combo I referred to earlier.
Yeah.
Raptor Lady plus the Dry Whisker to gain all of the armor. Sorry, Cornered Sentry. Raptor Lady's fine.
Yeah. Each their own. And obviously they draw the Dry Whisker. That sort of was the raised eyebrows there. Dry Whisker there after the 2 Cornered Sentries are already gone.
I wonder.
Croatia currently 5 out of 7.
Yeah, I mean, the
Progress.
opportunity to complete it now if they want, or
Versus
very soon if they want to.
versus Ukraine, who are 3 out of 7. So Croatia is, they're winning this race, and like you said, they've got the cards they need to complete this quest.
But
Maybe
look at the scores on the doors. It's 43 versus 29. So they're going to need to complete it quickly, because Ukraine have let them have like a 1-turn lead in return for 2 turns worth of armor.
both teams have the Phantom Militia. In fact, both teams actually have everything they need in the hand to complete the quest. But, as we can see, Croatia are going to get there first. They will be able to play Self-Furious next turn and start dealing with that high health total that Maria's scouted.
Right, see how Ukraine choose to look after this health total now.
This is where Garrosh, alright, straight away.
Right.
I was going to say, this is where Garrosh could come in handy, because one swing of this weapon deals with 3 of these minions.
Yeah, that's sort of what I meant about the safety net earlier. You don't want the chip damage. They've gone for a high armor strategy here. And now look at the board reverse. They're going to start getting their own chip damage in. Yes, they're behind on the quest. They can't afford to be too far. They do need to get 4 more minions down.
How does Nerea do this? Because if he trades in the Dry Whisker, then the Cornered Sentry won't be killed by the Sulfurus in one hit, but if he trades in the Sentry, then it will, but there's an extra minion on the board to potentially soak up the hero power. So I think which way he decides to do this is important. He decides to have as many minions on the board as possible. This is weak to any Whirlwind effect, so Furious plus a Whirlwind effect would allow the 8 damage to go straight to the face.
I feel that they know that Croatia is going to set up the Sulfuras here, though, so have the extra minion. They can force damage through here with these Warpaths, of course. But again, that's a discussion point. Do you want to use the Warpath now for just 1 point?
Yeah.
To clear up and force 8 to face, or do you want to try and save it for later for more damaging 8?
Is there any logic in them playing their own Scourge Lord Garrosh? I don't think so. But I guess it's something they've got to talk about.
If you play it, you've got to wait until you've used up all 3 charges of the weapon or you're wasting damage. That's a problem.
Yeah.
You've definitely got to talk about it. I mean, this is why you have a team. This is why you have things to analyze. But I feel that this game is not going to be particularly quick thanks to the amount of armor that Ukraine have gained. So saving your Garrosh for damage to face could be important later on.
Nope, gonna go this way, gonna guarantee the 8 damage to the face with the Execute, hitting into the minion with the Sulfuras, and then great, well, only 13 armor left.
Worth noting there that they did choose to use the Execute, not the Warpath. The Warpath capable of clearing multiple minions, even though it would have killed the 2-1 nice and easily.
Yep.
They figure they've got more chance of that being useful than the Execute later.
It'll deal with this Phantom Melinda next turn, and then the weapon and the hero power will go to face. Garrosh is there as extra burst damage later if Nuke ever finds himself 4 off lethal, and that'll do it.
And again, talk about the Garrosh damage, they're making sure they get through this damage from the weapon so they can complete their quest and replace it, not wasting any of that damage, doing the opposite way around to Croatia, but working out nicely for them at the moment. It's going to be very close. So let's start counting minions. Both players have a Stonehill. Chain Gang Militia Command on one side. Meanwhile, Nuke is running out of minions slightly. I think of minions as defenders, as blockers, goalkeepers, if you like. Who can sort of save that 8 damage.
Ooh, that was one brawl.
Yeah.
All right, we're 6 out of 7 on the quest here for Ukraine. It has to be time for him to start spewing his own fiery balls into Croatia.
But which way do they want to go about it? Do they want to save the Phantom Militia for later? They can maybe try and put 3 Phantom Militia down in one turn, or 2 at least, just to defend better. Obviously, Samurai Chain Gang does that as well. Maybe we want to play the Stonehill and see what they get from it. Pretty much dead level on health totals.
Time passes.
Sour Knight will complete the quest. It has to be Die Insect, right? Just
it does. It's a case of what else you do on the turn, I feel.
Yeah. Every turn he's not doing that, he's falling further behind. And this is great, using up all the charges of the Garrosh weapon.
And trying to make sure that the opposing brawl is not much use. 28 versus 23. 23 is less than 24, which is important at this point, because it is an extra shot, basically, that is required by Croatia to do the 28. Keep a close eye on those health totals in this one.
Issue for Croatia, of course, is that they cannot play Scourge Lord Garrosh in the same way that Ukraine did, because the moment that hero comes down, Die Insect disappears.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to keep that Ragnar's hero power online.
Yeah, absolutely no way of using that efficiently. But it would have vanished anyway had they played it for a turn anyway, so they were kind of cornered into not using him, I feel. Maybe they could have got one swing out of him, but...
Wow.
Yeah, I mean... Maybe they could have waited on this, but if they thought about it and didn't know what to do differently, it does guarantee 8, so that's its main purpose, but it may mean now that Ukraine can go wider, which would be maybe more use.
Yeah, well, Nuke also has the Warpath. which should be able to clear forward. Now, this is where Militia Commander is really going to shine. Just 4 mana, clear up a Tar Creeper, allow my hero power to go face everything.
Yes, it's an extra hero power shot. That's a good point.
None of these cards seem particularly useful for me. This is not a match that should be going into fatigue.
Do wonder if you take the Dire Horn, though, and try and draw the 6/9. Just because the 6/9 doesn't die to 1 shot. None of it seems like, it all seems very fringe cases to me. But
Defend the gates!
I love that, like, battle cry she has. Defend the gates! Yeah, I bet you've never heard it before.
shh,
9 health remaining for Nuke.
I hadn't. Yeah, and this is how Ukraine have gone about this in a different way, buying themselves more turns with that armor, but now it's coming back in their favor because the armor bought them so much time.
And what does Croatia do about this? It would take 4 warpaths to clear up this Stonehill Defender, then hero power goes face, but then look at that. The Sulfuris and the hero power from Ukraine would just finish Croatia off. So
As you can see, Stonehill Defender into the right thing, into the other right thing, and hope you don't lose the brawl.
So, I mean, the first right thing is a second Stonehill Defender.
Could be.
Militia, Phantom Militia, I guess.
But we can see Nerea's hand is just Warpath, Brawl, all that good stuff.
Looks like despite completing the quest last, Nerea has found just the safer route, managed to maintain a large health total, utilized that Militia Commander, and it looks like they're going to take this one.
Yeah, and I feel like this is just straight up an experience game. Ukraine knew that if they made that health total gain, that they would have enough time to still win the game. I feel like Croatia played the very natural game of Hearthstone here.
Yep. And that is just lethal on board. Sulfuris will clear up the Stonehill Defender, and Nerea's own Stonehill Defender plus the hero power will go face. Nerea takes the 2nd win in a row for Team Ukraine. That's 2 out of 3. 1 more win required and they take the series, Lorinda.
Was there a single 50-50 in that game, or was every single shot on both sides like forced to face deliberately?
The last one from Croatia was a 50-50.
But that was like a parting goodbye.
But yeah,
that wasn't part of the game.
None of the like relevant, important parts were crazy random 50-50
Exactly.
RNG rag.
And nobody got anything ridiculous from Stonehills. The draws seemed pretty equal. And I just felt like Ukraine managed to use the resources better.
That was a very carefully constructed game plan from Ukraine. It paid off, and it was pretty great to see. We are going to head into one last short break, but we'll be back to finish off today's Hearthstone Global Games right after this. score is 2-0 for Croatia. I was going to go with
I mean, it starts with
Croatia there.
UK, so I assume it's us that's winning, right?
It's 2-0 for Dan Gaskin's pick, Ukraine versus Croatia. Croatia have a very steep uphill battle, especially as the next matchup. Let's take a look at it. The next matchup is going to be Recruit Hunter versus Odd Paladin. That's not good for the Hunter.
Struggling a bit on the pick ban and on the lineup phase here, as well as having to take on the one time they get a 50-50, they're taking on people who are so well versed in the deck. I don't think Croatia did anything most people wouldn't in that game, but Ukraine just understand that matchup so well.
Now, I really want to see Croatia win this game, because if they don't,
It won't be insane anymore.
we will never get to experience objectively the most insane match of Hearthstone history.
I don't think I've ever seen a match where two people with the same name have played before. Like, there's three paradoxes, but only one of them's any good, and our one isn't. So they've never played each other in any late rounds of
I
Swift.
mean, you'd think there'd have been a Silent Storm mirror at some point.
There probably has been a Silent Storm mirror at some point.
Has there been a Hoy mirror? I know it's not quite.
Hoy
Exactly
versus
the
Fake
same.
Hoy? They
Fake
must have
Hoy.
played a few times.
Is this Insane versus Fake Insane coming up later?
Insane versus Insaforna.
I believe, yes, yesterday or the day before when we were practicing this, we were calling him Infasauna or something.
In the sauna, I don't know.
In the sauna? That is quite an image. Let's move on. It's Hunter versus Paladin. And again, I mentioned this a moment ago. The Recruit Hunter's really going to struggle with this matchup. I guess an early Kalisteth can do some work.
There it
There
is.
is an early Kalisteth. The problem is, Hunter doesn't have a way of consistently removing all of the 1/1s.
No, and they, oddly enough, just keep coming back, because that's exactly how this deck works.
And Hunter has even less ways to deal with all of the 3/3s that the 1/1s eventually turn into.
I mean, how hard is this? You've got Magic, who is basically, like I say, he's a student, a business economics student.
Oh, yeah.
Zagreb. He loves this game, but he's got a part-time job as well as being a student. Like, how hard is that going to be taking on like, old boy Kalento, Nevea?
Yeah.
Even before you sit down, you must be thinking this is going to be quite difficult.
We're talking, full-time professional Hearthstone players. And it's possible, with enough work, with enough teamwork, it can be done. But you know what? This series has just given Ukraine.
I mean, one of the players is playing with an alien attached to their face at this point. It's getting very difficult for...
This series has just given Ukraine a great opportunity just to show how good they are.
Yeah, we saw a dominant performance from France earlier, and this is topping even that right now. Again, the players who get together and play in the same room, though, having fun with it. I mean, as soon as they saw the lineups, like you were saying, they probably knew they were in a world of trouble, but they're still getting to enjoy their experience. And as it's Swiss, if they can fight back, and like I say, they fought hard last year to try to get back into it,
They did.
we will possibly see them again at a later stage.
Yep, it's not strictly...
And then they haven't lost this yet, but about 6 button presses from Old Boy later, they will have.
It's not strictly necessary for them to win their first series in the Hearthstone Global Games.
Against Ukraine.
And Deathstalker Rexstar is there to deal with one board for the 1/1s. But look at this, Ukraine taking all this time to work out whether they want to go Righteous Protector, Firefly, or just coin button.
Yeah, I think also they want to know what to do with this Blessing and Might. Like, do we need to use it to get lots of early damage? And the answer when you've got a Divine Shield minion usually is yes, but if you're so far favoured, maybe you don't even want to. Maybe you just want to make sure you're all on the same page as to how to use that Blessing and Might, as opposed to sort of buttoning up.
Truth is found in death.
Well, Kalisteth will make some difference for sure.
Yeah, but in the short term, it's not going to do much at all. It is just a 2/2, and again, Ukraine sort of have all of the decisions in the world. They can play.
This is where people who say you need a shorter timer for turns 1 or 2 are just objectively wrong.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly complicated turn.
Yeah. Is it just button? Is it button, coin, blessing of might make the trade? Is it Firefly? Is it Raid Leader? Like, all of them are literally possibilities.
Who needs a magic button anyway?
Not me.
Apparently not.
Not Old Boy either, as he smirks and bashes 4 to the face immediately. Wow, Hunter's Mark, that's going to do loads of work here.
Yeah, that's just going to confirm your opponent's minion has 1 health.
I mean, it could be used on the Firefly, I guess, but with Croatia has nothing to do this turn.
Yeah, just no way through any of this. And
I wonder.
Old Boy with a wealth of options versus Croatia have none. Very interesting they valued this early damage over the slightly longer term minions. You can see how it's going to work out for them. They're aware that there's probably no way of getting rid of this. It's going to come in for 8 or even 12 as it stands. Well, 16 as it stands, but surely something will happen in the meantime. Taunt them all. Taunt them all up.
I was going to say not really the one they want, but I don't think it matters.
They just want
this matchup.
anything.
They just want a 3-mana weapon that deals 2 damage every turn. That's totally fine.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, I mean, how much damage is this Protector actually going to do? This is what the turn 1 and turn 2 discussions were all about. And the answer is a lot.
Yeah. Next
He's being PG friendly.
Next question is the Flame Elemental being played? Yeah, I guess it is. I'm not sure if Croatia really run any ways of dealing with a wide board. As that basically, I want to know if there's Unleash the Hounds on the deck, and no, there is not. So actually, they have even less ways of dealing with these minions than I thought they did.
Yeah, not drawing Candle Shot was a serious error here.
Oh boy.
Flanking Strike should at least slow down the bleeding from the 4-1, but it's way too late looking. So how do they win this, being a bit serious? So Flanking Strike, something Deathstalker Rexar, Profit.
There's so much that Croatia have to think about, though, because, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right, that's the way they're going to go, and as we can see, that is the way that they've got the best chance of doing something. But suddenly, Fungal Mancer's insane, right? Oh, and there it is, off the top. Coin Fungal Mancer, buff up the elementals, trade one of them, easy, right?
Yeah, but you've got to think about it, because they might be looking at Coin Vine Cleaver to get that 8 damage in, well, quicker than otherwise. I know it's 12, but 8 looks like the lethal amount required. So they need to work out whether they want to use their raid leader here just to take some easy trades, or even the Sacred Maul. So you only take some damage to face, lose one of your minions, have a low damage turn. Then next turn, Fungal Mancer, because they still can't Deathstalker Rexar. That's the discussion point for this turn. But if they think they get it done before even needing the Vine Cleave, then obviously they'll coin the Fungal Mancer. A lot of fairly careful counting and estimating going on here, I should think. You know your opponent just has no way of dealing with much, or they wouldn't have played a Flanking Strike on your 4-1. That shows you the trouble they're in. But yep, they're going to go for...
I wonder.
It's just kind of insane how much damage this Odd Paladin is able to put out. I mean, I've seen all sorts of tiny minions get removed in all sorts of stupid ways, like Righteous Protectors being polymorphed, just crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, look at the damage coming in next turn. 14, if they want to Fungal Mancer. And with 2 weapons in hand. Those are the decisions I find interesting. I wonder who in Ukraine had the final say on that turn. There was obviously quite a lot going on in the discussion.
I wonder.
It's hard to say. I mean, we're talking very good players across the board for Ukraine, which potentially means very big egos and very big arguments.
I think in this particular team, probably not so much, of course. I think Kalento's quite capable of having an ego. I don't think he forces it on people too hard.
Sure.
He wants to win, so if the other people are going to help you win, I think he'll probably look after them quite nicely.
Old Boy still not quite finding the damage for lethal here, but we've just got another turn where Fungal Mancer's looking really strong. It can buff up the raid leader. That can just straight up trade with the Spellbreaker if he even wants to bother trading. I mean, he's still at 28 health. Deathstalker Rexar is something he will be thinking about going into next
Right, it's like the only way they lose the game, so it's a card he'll definitely be playing around.
So I wonder if actually the better players trade in 3 of the weaker minions and Fungal Mancer up the other 2.
If you can do that without actually ruining the fact that you might win a lot slower if they haven't got it, then sure. You need to be a little tiny bit careful. Nothing terrible happens.
Like, buff up the 2 Silverhand recruits, trade everything else in. Oh, he's just going to ignore it entirely, sure.
Yep.
Very similar effect, actually. Rexar still does its thing, leaves the 2 minions alive, and the Spellbreaker has to trade regardless.
This does sort of shore it up for a turn, though. And Ukraine don't have much follow-up in hand, but they still have a follow-up yellow button that does loads of things.
Big yellow button.
But now it's actually become, it's not really a contest as such, but it's definitely something that feels like Ukraine could have emptied other things out. There were definitely other paths that didn't lead to this Rexar situation. Whether they were incorrect or not is a different story entirely, but if they got the feeling there was no removal in hand, which they did, doing more damage with the weapons and spending less mana and coins on minions may have been a way to be safer about it. Of course, you can't be too safe, otherwise chain gang into a Devil's Door or something, you've lost the game. So you need to play around all eventualities.
There you go. 4 attack for the raid leader, another 4 for the Vine Cleaver. 4 off lethal this turn. But the thing is, it also... Oh, sorry, he's actually 1 mana short.
Right, they used the coin to make 2 dudes, which were buffed dudes, so it was obviously a very tempo-orientated play.
Yeah.
But it has led them to be in this position now where Rexar could do something.
Where it's getting a little bit dicey. Just a little bit. For old boy.
As in, we're still watching, whereas we didn't expect to be at this point. We expect to be talking about ships and cows and things by now.
Cows?
Moo.
Okay. Is that just a new expansion idea?
That's just what a cow does.
Okay.
But there is no cow level, so we should continue with the game.
What are you playing?
Huh?
What game are you playing?
Any Blizzard game you like. So, production's playing StarCraft, apparently.
Not right now, I hope.
So how do they force through the maximum here? They're just going to look after the 4-2 raid leader?
I think, yeah, dropping the Stone Defender makes a lot of sense here. Can find something potentially like Tara Mortarion. Well, no, but Wax Elemental isn't a horrible one-drop.
Right, especially when you know your opponent's been struggling to clear white board all game, so let's just make another one and protect it with this stupid doofus elemental.
I mean, this does what you suggested about as well as it possibly can. There's now 2 taunts protecting that raid leader. Hellmaster Shaw not going to do anything this turn. The only play that Croatia actually has available to them is the Sound Knight Chain Gang, but obviously they can build a beast first and see what they get. Yeah,
that seems like a relevant thing to do right now. It needs to be a good old beast. There are no cows. Huh. None of this looks like the stuff they wanted.
Is Rexar a Tauren?
It might be a Virgo.
Raven, is Rexar a Tauren? He's shaking his head at me, never mind, okay. Because Tauren in World of Warcraft are cows, right?
Ah, I see. Oh, yeah, that's been told me before, actually, a long time ago.
So there are some cows.
So lifesteal might stop the game from ending. Did we see the first one? I don't think we did. We haven't got a good way of displaying sort of a half pick yet. How long can this go on? Not much longer the way things are going.
When buffed by Kaliseth, the Sound Knight Chain Gangs aren't too bad at all. And there's no real way for old boy to push that much damage through to the face this turn. Vine Cleaver will almost definitely clean up one of these. Raid Leader will clean up the other, but then that's only 2 being pushed. So Magic still has some time.
Yeah, but time is ticking away for sure.
Reporting for duty.
It sets up lethal. Basically, every turn now is going to be a lethal setup. It's going to be down to whether you can build beasts that have the lifesteal effective. But with Hellmaster Shaw and what I assume is a lifesteal minion from last turn, unless it was a Mookla. Six isn't many, Dan.
It's more than 5.
It is.
I wonder.
An extra
And Katharina is capable of getting a Witchwood Grizzly, which would protect Croatia for now. The question is that more likely to protect him than Build a Beast is? Croatia are thinking about it. Magic has to make a decision soon.
He does, and if they're going to build a beast, that decision has to be even quicker, because that could be quite a long decision in its own right.
So there's 2 Witchwood Grizzlies left in the deck, and there's 1 copy of King Crush in the deck. So it would be a 2 in 3 chance to protect himself.
He's going for it.
To go for it. Okay, that's it. And as a 4-13, that is going to buy Magic and Team Croatia a little bit more time.
So this looks like a divine favour turn
It does,
somewhere
yeah.
along the line.
I agree. 4-13 taunts are pretty good, you know?
Yeah, they really are. And then next turn, you can shore things up.
Do you think that old boy? Do you think the old boy's? No, okay, that's answered my question already. I was going to say, do you think he'll play them all and then play Divine Favor? No, of course not. Divine Cleaver.
Yeah, he's got the cleaver. He's looking for level up, so he wants to keep the cleaver in play.
Blasting of Might's not bad. Great on the Wax Elemental, actually.
That's not a particularly great set of cards there. And he's not quite as cheerful as he was a few minutes ago when he used that coin to generate some more minions.
I'm pretty cheerful. We might.
You're always pretty cheerful.
We might see the most insane game of Hearthstone.
Yeah, that is going to be absolutely insane.
Must move quickly.
Do you see the bit in the background of Croatia's camp there? There's someone jumping up and down, jogging on the spot.
Getting warmed up, ready to come into play.
Yeah.
Reporting for duty.
It's a pretty insane team.
Pretty hard to knock through this Grizzly. That's just a whole load of like infantry that's just gone in there. The Bears eating them.
Well, when there's no level up, there's no Sunkeeper Tarim. Yeah, well, a big minion with Taunt is enough to put a stop to these little minions.
You sure? But this guy is. Sure.
Oh my goodness, please. Yeah, and for anyone wondering, Lorinda was pointing at Howlmaster Shaw on our monitor.
They weren't wondering. They know me by now. I feel sorry for them all.
Well, let's get another Witchwood Grizzly. Nope, that's King Crush.
Yeah.
And
Not the beast they were looking for, the 9/9 charge minion.
for 1 mana? Nope, not good enough.
It might have charge and rush in a minute. That'd be good. That'd really help.
Is there a Builder Beast that he can make? A second Builder Beast that has Taunt that will...
And there's quite a few ways of getting lifesteal and rush.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Hunter's Mark his own Katharina. That guarantees the other Witchwood Grizzly. That's a
Nice play.
really nice play.
Also nice that Croatia are getting to show some of the ability that they have, rather than just going through the motions like the first 2 games in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't even know that we've particularly highlighted this, but this isn't Egg Hunter. This is Recruit Hunter. This is the older version, which still packs the punch, as we can see now as it gets into the later stages of the game. And if Magic gets the time to build some more beasts, maybe he can take this one, as Ukraine's second Stonehill defender is completely useless. Where's Tarim? Where's Tyrion? What's with all these Wax Elementals being the best picks?
And they must be close to lethal next turn.
You mean Magic?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Old Boy.
No, there's 21 on the board as it stands. That's lethal on board.
Okay. Well, the second Wax Elemental will...
Yeah, I mean, it can be stopped. I'm just saying, it's getting there already, and they've got power to add a lot more with the other stuff that's going to be coming in.
There's a zombie that's going to silence the Stonehill.
Yeah, they've silenced Ukraine a little bit at the moment. Old Boy was looking quite chipper, although Chipper's not in the team anymore a while ago.
Oh, okay. The Blessed Maul, which we completely dismissed earlier, saying it didn't matter, actually really matters now, because before, Shaw would have allowed this Builder Beast to trade into the Stonehill. The Wax Elemental could have been silenced by the Silence Death Zombies, and that was lethal. But now things are much more open. Though, Croatia is going to be generating a lot more damage as this game continues than Ukraine will be. They've sort of missed their opening to play a 1-for-1 now. Sorry, not a 1-for-1. I keep calling it 1-for-1, or level up.
They've got lifesteal as well now, available with Shaw to give it charge, or to give it rush anyway. Which is the same thing when your opponent has 7 taunt minions. So they can start to get out of range of immediate danger very, very quickly here. Yeah, just a change of demeanour of Old Boy here. I think they thought they had this one.
Honestly, I cannot believe that Croatia have managed to reverse this. That first Witchwood Grizzly from the Katharina with the Keleseth buff as well. It's done so much work.
I just feel that Ukraine, when they used the coin that early, the only way they could lose in the real world was running into Rexar. And even though it's 3 turns away, I feel they could maybe have seen that coming and just tried to get the weapon down a turn earlier. But they were trying to force through damage that way, but that played into the 1 out of the opponent.
Lorinda, is a board full of 3/3s with Torn even enough for Old Boy right now?
It sounds good when you word it like that.
It does, but
I'm not sure it is.
how Master Shaw allows any of these minions to just rush in and deal with these 3/3s. I just feel like they are the biggest threat that Old Boy has, and that they're not actually going to impact the board that much.
Reporting for duty.
They'll buy him another turn.
But what does that turn do exactly? That's a good point.
Yeah, just gonna have to play the second Lost in the Jungle for one more 3/3 with Torn just to squeeze out the value, as there's no way of trading in the Corridor Creeper.
The funny thing is, I was talking about Old Boy, how his demeanour has changed through the game, but Croatia's has as well. They're sort of laughing and joking, knowing they were losing 3-0.
Right.
And suddenly it's game on. Yeah, so defending as much as he can with the Divine Shield rather than 3/3, because it's just wait a number of hits rather than actually...
Flanking Strike in itself, like forget the Builder Beast for a second. Flanking Strike right now is 4 mana, deal with 2 3/3s.
Sure.
Thanks to how Master Shot, obviously.
Do you want to build a beast though? There's so many build beasts that when you've automatically got Rush, it's just so good.
Yeah.
I mean, how much damage does Ukraine have left in the rest of this game if Croatia just gets some more lifesteal and just build up and sort of go 50-50 on the board for a while? They'll just win through attrition in the end. Amongst the other ways they could possibly win the game as well.
Has he just found lethal, right? No, I guess not, because we're building a beast. So the Silence can deal with the Wax Elemental and then trade into a 3/3. The Wolf trades into another 3. No, it's almost there, but not quite.
Shaw is finally exposed.
Oh, is it?
But, you know,
It is
but
lethal.
what to do? Oh, it's lethal, is it? Looks like 14, doesn't it?
What? Huh?
Yeah, it was 14.
What?
It was actually lethal.
Okay, that could definitely have gone face right then.
But look, I mean, look at the situation. Yes, it's a miss lethal, but look, how do you lose this ever?
Yeah.
It's not even like a 1% lose. It's just like you found a way to win the game so you don't look for lethal. But there's 4 of them, but there's at least 3 in the room.
There was a lot that was confusing about that turn. Right. I thought I saw the lethal, and then he built a beast. It's like, oh, maybe there's not lethal. I thought I counted it, but... Yeah,
Old Boy can't even kill himself properly at this point. Has to pass turn to let Croatia do it.
But there we go. Croatia take their first win of the series. One step closer to being able to take down Ukraine. It's still an uphill battle, though. This next matchup we've got coming up, which will officially be the most insane Hearthstone game in Hearthstone's history.
You're excited about this, aren't you?
Very excited about this. But it's going to be a tough one for Croatia because we're talking Miracle Rogue versus Odd Rogue.
Who has the Odd Rogue?
Ukraine.
Oh, that's bad news for Croatia. You're right.
Rogue, which is bad news for Croatia. Odd Rogue is just capable of pushing in all of this damage very early. Miracle Rogue can't heal itself. It's going to be a struggle. Find out how that series will go in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. So we've just been told in earnest by our producer that production's second pick is Hungary.
Production's hungry.
I just think it's great that they want to be as involved as we are. You know, we've now got 2 production picks. We've got Poland, who have done very well. They won their first series. We've got Hungary. At this rate, production will be easily beating your score, Lorinda.
And they already are.
Well, they are.
To be absolutely fair.
I just mean in the long run, all the way. But anyways, to the matter at hand. Are you ready for the most insane game in Hearthstone?
This is going to be insane. I hope you guys are ready for the worst cast in Hearthstone history, because both players have the same name. It's pretty insane.
It is insane. Their name is insane. This cast's going to be insane. This game's going to be insane. Hopefully we can just get to it pretty fast. It's going to be Miracle Rogue on Croatia's side versus Odd Rogue on Ukraine's side. Which is a little bit of a one-sided matchup. Lorinda, is there any way the Miracle Rogue can pull through here?
Yeah, if Ukraine don't take their time on their turns. I feel that some of those last turns, I don't know, it didn't seem like they planned well enough ahead.
Okay.
There's something about that last game that felt wrong.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not going to take on Kalento and Neve and Old Boy and Insane
Sounds like you just
in a
did.
Hearthstone contest, but it felt like there were things they could have done to not play into Deathstalk of Exile with a coin.
Okay.
Because that seemed like the only way they could lose. But if they're playing around Chain Gang or whatever, then maybe that's the case. But we should get onto this one because it might not be a very long one.
It's insane, though. So let's look at Insane's mulligan. And what cards does Insane have, Lorinda?
Wow. The important part of all of this is the Argent Squire. I feel if they can get...
No, other Insane.
The other Insane on you. I hate you so much. I guess you've got to sort of stick with a Hench Gang Thug. Do you keep the Eviscerate as well to try and clear up an early minion?
Hench Gang Thug is one of the best cards in Rogue, even though it's not a Rogue exclusive card. I was going to say in the matchup, but that would be underselling it.
Not a great hand here, actually, for Insane Ukraine.
True.
No, it's fine. It's
almost
got a one
great,
drop,
right? Like, it just needs a couple more tools to activate that Edwin, and then
But that's
Yeah,
the thing,
that's a
like
free job.
Edwin without the coin in Odd Rogue is one of your worst cards a lot of the time, strangely enough.
Flip the board over to other Insane, though.
Right, and it goes crazy.
We got coin, prep, Fan of Knives, Edwin. That's the way to beat Odd Rogue. As long as it all happens before Vastbind Slayer can be played.
Quite a lot of discussion to have about these 2 turns, actually, because they can like coin into hero power just to bump into this, then bump it or shiv it the next turn. Keep up the weapon once for the shiv. Have a hench character that's 4/4.
Honestly, my gut is telling
Just
me.
have a massive Edwin.
My gut is telling me that the only way that Insane realistically wins this game is by creating
I think you're right.
a big Edwin.
I think you are right, indeedy. Just looking for how many ways Ukraine have to remove a big Edwin, if any.
Oh, that's a way, actually. The Cold Blood pickup there is going to allow the Argent Squire to have some good trade potential.
But no owl or anything like that,
No.
so they're all in on killing you, which is what you should do in a deck like this, of course.
And again, come turn 5, there should be a Vastbind Slayer in there, but it's not turn 5 yet. So.
I mean, you might not get to turn 5 with the size. This Edwin as
Exactly. So there we go, we're looking at, what, 8/8, I think?
well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nothing else makes much sense.
And that's assuming that Insane goes all in and goes with the... I need to start calling him Croatia, don't I?
Exactly.
I just have to.
I've had enough of it. I'm sure that people watching have had enough of it.
Yeah.
The only question really is if you want to coin Shiv and try and draw another prep.
Ooh. Well, it would have to be coin, prep,
Shiv.
Shiv or
prep.
Fan of Knives.
Yeah.
And then...
Instead of the fan, you could play the Shiv and try and draw another prep and just go completely silly.
Okay. But it's the same either way, right?
I guess.
I like using.
it is,
I like.
yeah.
I like using the Fan of Knives
Excuse me,
first
I'm
because
just having a moment over here.
I'm so confused. Then I like using the Fan of Knives first because it's the most expensive one, obviously.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, Dan. Just move swiftly on with the rest of the cars, please. I blame you for all the insane comments.
That was pretty insane of you, Lorinda.
I'm just losing it. I'm not even doing it on purpose anymore.
You're going insane.
I will do in a minute. I'll also be solo casting. Stop it. It's the usual thing that I'm supposed to walk out, but I push you out. So how do they go about dealing with this?
Well, he's actually almost there with the Cold Blood and the weapon going in. That's 7 damage out of the 8. The problem is he can't afford to face tank this twice.
Right.
So I guess, yeah, plonk the biggest minion possible on the board and...
Just to challenge it, make sure you still get damage into the face. Because you're still in a race, you're just going to take a bit of a beating early on.
Oh my ouchies.
Dan and his ouchies. Okay. Croatia have got Shiv into Cold Blood into 12U if they want it. They have other things available. But, I mean, that just looks decent to me. You can't face tank 12 twice. It's just not happening.
It's so much damage on that Edwin.
The only thing with the Cold Blood play is it does remove activators for SIs and stuff, but do you really care? I'm sure you do.
I really don't think it's an issue. I mean,
you're such a massive underdog, you have to take a risk at some point.
I think shiving away that Argent Squire and just buffing this Edwin to be a 12/8, it's going to be quite hard to lose from that position.
I mean, yeah, you can still you still haven't done any more than 12 damage. Your opponent's still able to generate a lot of aggression back at you. You've used a lot of cards to get hit.
Right, but looking...
Your hand is full of garbage because you haven't got a thug set up.
That doesn't... I don't believe that changes things. If Insane wants to deal with this Edwin right now, he has to play Cold Blood as a combo and then hit the weapon into the 12/8, leaving him at 6 health.
Yeah.
That's not a safe position to be in.
Because there's no other way of doing the damage. There's no way of... If you had 5 mana, there's a zillion ways of doing it. But
So-
you come down so quickly.
So he pretty much just has to take that route. An alternative, I guess, is Diamol SO7 Agent, chip away the 2 damage and leave it as a 12/6, but then it's still going to deal another 12 damage next turn. I guess it leaves Ukraine with a slightly better board after that, but... Oh boy, it's... We said that this is Odd Rogue favoured.
I mean, this
But
is...
hey,
Yeah, they
Edwin.
found a way, Edwin. He's called Edwin for a reason. I haven't done that one for a while.
It's similar to a match that Casey had in HTT Italy. He was against an Odd Paladin with Miracle Rogue. What he did was just like this. On turn 2 or 3, he set up a big Edwin and won because of it.
The Brotherhood shall come.
Okay.
Goes with the board instead.
Yeah, if they're going to have to face tank for 12 anyway, they might as well take the 12 the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. And there's no way that Croatia, well, there shouldn't be a way that Croatia can find the last 6 damage they need this turn.
How much have they got their own swinging back next turn? 10 on board, 10 in hand. They're getting close. Oh, they can't, because Leroy and Coldblood's 6 mana.
Yeah.
I'm borrowing
I mean,
Switch again.
it's still close, though. It's
Right,
a couple
so
turns away.
if they're trying to get up 2-turn lethal and Edwin killing. Because then Coldblood their own Edwin next turn to trade into theirs for the opponents for instance. But obviously Miracle Rogue does have a little bit of chip damage. It's got the weapon, it's got Eviscerate, it's got SI7 agent. All this stuff is available.
Halt! Who goes there?
Okay, yep. Just put the biggest minion on the board. Makes sense.
Another Coldblood, but they
Okay.
haven't got the mana to do the thing that we want to do.
However, cold-blooding the Insane's own Edwin and trading that into the big Edwin is a way of clearing up the board. Then Insane can put his SI7 agent into the Hench Clan Thug and focus on generating his own board now. This is the backswing you were talking about.
It is, but it's super late. But maybe, just maybe, they can get some in there.
Croatia seems to be having a pretty heated discussion about this. Insane looks like he's really...
It stays like, I've got this, be quiet, everybody.
Yeah.
That's the body language I'm reading from that.
Second Coldblood coming out as well. Yeah, okay, this is the backswing that we wanted.
Has he still got this?
8 damage on board plus the weapon every single turn. So that's 10 damage plus the Leroy. That's 16. This... Oh, no, it does not quite the mana. Okay.
There's
almost.
crystals that happen.
Almost the 2-turn lethal.
There's a Leroy.
But yeah, that's a 1-turn lethal. And that's for Croatia tying up this series. We are going all the way to Game 5. Croatia managing to win 2 of their unfavored matchups. And now the final matchup of the day is going to be their Aggro Mage versus Shadowwalk Shaman. Suddenly, Croatia have a chance to take down Ukraine.
That is absolutely insane.
That was insane. I told you it'd be insane.
I can't stop you, can I? You're just going to beat me at this game.
You actually started this. I'm just gonna, maybe not today, but in rehearsal, you started this.
I don't rehearse. I am absolutely natural.
Yes, so let's take a look at the final matchup we have. We mentioned it a moment ago. It is going to be the Aggro Mage on Levek's side versus Nerea once more with Shadowwalk Shaman. And now I'm saying this matchup should be Aggro Mage favored. You said it could get a little bit messy.
When did I say that?
Oh, I thought you did. Maybe I was thinking
I
of a
don't
different
remember
matchup.
saying that.
In
but
that case, my apologies. Not messy at all, just Aggro Mage favored.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with you. You have far more Shadowwalk experience than I do. As we saw earlier today, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what makes it worse is Raven smirking at me from the other side of the room.
The room is empty.
Yeah, so...
She's resorting to lying now.
Obviously, as we are talking about Aggro Mage, Mana Worm on turn 1, pretty important.
Seems good.
Yeah, counters...
Did I hear Sottle call it as like the reverse Jaina or something?
Reverse Jaina?
It's like Mana Worm on 1 is the same as Jaina on 9 or some shambolic sentence.
Maybe. Sounds like the kind of thing he'd say. But it's also the secrets can do a lot of work, right? I think the Shadowwalk starting with Coin against the Mage can make a difference because that's something to proc the Counterspell. But Counterspell hitting a Healing Rain, that's bad news. Hitting a Lightning Storm, that's bad news. Hitting a Volcano, that's bad news as well.
And sometimes you just get enough pressure that they have to go for it.
Yeah.
Like they don't know which secret it is.
Yep.
Take your pick, take your 50-50, get it wrong, lose the game. Assuming that is the normal secret list of just 2 of each, which I haven't checked.
That's true. I guess it could be something different. I'd say that's less likely given that this is open deck
Double
list.
Counterspell, double wound.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually why I thought they might have an extra one because
Interesting.
in open deck lists sometimes you might split 2-1-1 or 2-2-1.
Oh, to make
just so your opponents don't actually
multiplayer.
have complete information.
Oh,
all the
that's
time.
interesting. See, my thought process would have been you're not going to put a surprise secret in a deck that your opponent's already seen because the whole point
Right.
of secret...
But if there's 3 different secrets,
Yeah.
then maybe it's a surprise because they don't know which one it is.
Definitely a fair counter-argument. Let's get into it. Levek on the left there. Nerea getting ready to play. Nerea did win his first game earlier. Can he do it again and take this one for Ukraine? Things are getting dicey.
Things are getting dicey. Nerea still seems to be taking it in good spirits, but they definitely seem a lot more excited on the Croatia side than they did halfway through game number 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's been an uphill climb for them, but they have been achieving this uphill climb. Like, they lost the first 2 series, but then they managed to win the third one completely unexpectedly. Horrible matchup. Then they won the next one. Also a bad matchup, but they managed to find that one out, which was the Big Edwin. Big Edwin is often the one out, actually, when it comes to Miracle Rogue.
And it's one that we don't see quite as often as we used to for some reason. I don't know what's caused that. Maybe slightly fewer one-mana spells.
I mean, the fact that Counterfeit Coin's no longer in the game
No Shadow Step.
is also an element. Yeah, Shadow Step doesn't seem to be in these Miracle Rogues anymore. That can make Edwin into
Of course,
a much
Counterfeit
bigger
Coin was
minion.
the thing for the longest time, but even before that, yeah.
And also, back when Kalaseth Rogue was one of the prominent rogue decks, back then we were seeing big Edwins all of the time, because not only are they being buffed by the Kalaseth, but that deck did run 2 copies of Shadow Step. Back in the days of Water Rogue as well.
Oh, that deck!
Big Edwins back then. I love
forgot that
Water
deck
Rogue.
existed. It's such a Dan deck.
It's such a Dan deck.
It really was.
But yeah, it's...
Otherwise known as a high roll deck.
But this is going to be a big old underdog story if Croatia do take this. And I'm sure that Dan Gaskin is watching from wherever he is in the world right now.
Private helicopter.
Biting his fingernails, thinking, oh my goodness, I need Ukraine to win this. Meanwhile, off stream, Hungary and Thailand are 2-2.
2-2. Production is hungry for more picks.
And that's why they told us that Hungary is their pick.
It was probably 2-0 at the time.
They just yeah, that's right. We've just decided. No, they said they decided earlier on today. So give them that credit.
No, fair play.
Mana Worm in hand.
Seems good. Shudderwock in hand.
Seems less good, actually. On turn 1.
Turn 9 bad.
Yeah. Earthshock, however, one of the cards that can quite freely proc the counterspell.
Hex useful if you've already procced that counterspell, if you get that far. And in fairness, the rest of Croatia's hand is a load of gubbins.
Gonna just get rid of everything for Ukraine. Makes sense. Gets another Earthshock anyways. Glacial Shard is one of the bigger cards in this matchup, I guess. Problem is that's very weak to Explosive Rune.
This looks like an okay curve starting to come together for Croatia.
Where's Kieran Tormage, though?
Your turn up. There's plenty of damage available as well with this Cinderstorm and Explosive Runes. That adds up so quickly when you have got the Mana Worm start, because they just can't sort of compete with everything at once. When you get to the point where they have to Lightning Storm you, but you have Counterspell up, it's just game over.
Just putting Pyromancer on the board as something that can be traded into, or something that can eat up a Frostbolt, or an Arcane Missiles by the looks of things. If this goes right for Croatia, is it a risk that they're willing to take? Do you think Lorinda, Sorcerer's Apprentice into Arcane Missiles?
It's so tempting, but also Arcanologist into Apprentice, Missiles, Coin, Secret,
I mean,
Cinderstorm.
let's face it, the chances are astronomically high.
Yeah.
I'm kidding this time.
I know, Dan. I'm with you. You're good. It's 50-50. Actually is this time.
But the thing is, worst case scenario, the Mana Worm trades into the Pyromancer anyway. There's still a 3-2 on this side of the board. So the best possible scenario here is really good for Croatia. Going to take the slightly safer route, Missiles first, potentially can coin out the hero power if he needs to.
Right, and now they know it's going to live. Using the coin is effective on the Mana Worm.
Yep.
Whereas the way we were looking at, if it doesn't work, then the Mana Worm's wasted, so is the coin.
3 secrets. Oh, sorry, 2 secrets in hand. Cinderstorm, certainly not a secret. Earthshock going to have to be used on that Mana Worm preemptively before it gets too big.
Yeah, and that's going to make things very difficult in terms of clearing the board with your removal if this counterspell gets established on the board. Looks to me like they're going to wait for another turn so they can play the Apprentice and the counterspell at the same time. No?
Just preemptively destroying any minion that Ukraine drops next turn. Seems good to me. Croatia has the pressure on at the moment.
Yeah, it's not gigantic, but looking at the hand in conjunction with the pressure, it's reasonable.
And this is where the big issue of playing against Tempo Mage comes in. Like, Maria could really consider playing that Lightning Storm, because if it were to be counterspelled, then that's almost a game lost right there.
Yeah, they're going to need to stabilize fast, because if they can pick up some healing rain, they'll be in a good spot. But as you oofed in the background, gave away a little bit.
What a draw. What a draw.
It's just the card they're looking for.
That's a huge draw, Lorinda.
Wow. Gimmick infringement from Dan.
I mean, it is.
But it is, indeed.
What I'm saying is not wrong. Just playing the Kirin Mage and trading both minions in just looks very strong to me. Obviously, Levesque is thinking about something else. Perhaps Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Well, I think the Apprentice can stick because of the... Yeah. I was going to say because of the counterspell. Actually, this is interesting as well.
But the problem is, if he's playing the counterspell with Sorcerer's Apprentice, then he's not taking advantage of the Kirin Mage. There were some dodgy Cinderstorm missiles there. Either way, I mean, face damage is what Croatia wants ultimately, but now Lightning Storm just clears up everything, actually giving Neyria a way back into this game. It is very strange to me that he didn't just make the incredibly simple, trade everything in, play counterspell.
But now they're down to 16, and how do you deal with this lot? You've goaded out the spell that could potentially be cheap. Okay, you've lost your board in the process, but now how do you deal with stuff from here on?
I guess. Silent Chain Gang next turn, as we can see, is going to come down. One of them will be destroyed. The other will... Oh, no, sorry. That's the counterspell, isn't it? So,
right.
So they'll both just be there to... At worst case, one of them gets destroyed, the other one doesn't. But they're both going to survive. If Life Drinker came down on Explosive Runes, the health total remains the same.
I mean, they're getting pretty close now.
But it does seem as though Neyria is going to want to put up a taunt to stop this Kirin damage.
So difficult, though, because they overloaded last turn.
Is Lavak considering playing this Frostbolt?
Time runs out on me.
I'm really not sure.
Is he considering whether to ping face or ping the minion, probably?
Oh, sure. That makes much
Because the point of damage is really important right now.
Yeah.
But also, preserving your 4-3 is important right now as well. So by doing it this way, with that 1-1 not on the board anymore, your Kirin Tor lives through exactly this play. Because you Frostbolt one and you trade into the other, and your 4-1 is still on the board. Whereas if you left the 1-1 up and ping face, you lose your 4-1 minion.
Now, despite the strange turn earlier, things are looking so good for Lavek. He can just, again, make a very simple value trade.
Despite, I think it might be because of the strange turn earlier.
Do you really?
It could be. He would have been scared of a small spell proccing and then the Lightning Storm killing everything, including the Kirin Tor.
Right. Okay. Either way, the counterspell is now doing some serious work, as Ukraine don't have a way of dealing with it. That Hagatha is unplayable for now. Neyria gonna have to just play Life Drinker and hope to heal up a little bit.
Do you Zola the Life Drinker?
I think that's definitely something to consider. There's not a better Zola target. Another potential play this turn, although Grumble hasn't been drawn either, Sandbinder for a Glacial Shard could potentially save Neyria some damage as well. Clay Shard on the Berserker. That's healing for 5, right?
Looks like what he's going to go for.
But if he draws Grumble from this, it's a disaster. Yeah. Okay.
Hits the Glacial Shard. So like you say, can heal up for 4.
Is Hagatha going to carry Neyria through this game?
It's going to be super close, that's for sure. Still on 15, well, 12 effectively, 11 effectively.
Okay, why... Okay, well, it works out because Levesque's drawn the Aluneth and he may decide he needs to play that, but I would have thought pinging the... sorry, freezing the Berserker is better, because ping it and it does 5 damage.
Well, it does 4, right? Because you take 1 ping that you could have done to face. Or
Ah, okay, yep, sure.
So it's kind of the same thing.
Sure. But either way, now Aluneth going to deal so much damage over the next few turns. Right. More than Hagatha should be able to save for Ukraine.
You would think so, but there's Life Drinker Zola, that's 6 health back, that's a fireball dealt with. Yeah, it's going to get out of hand, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, it's like you start to do the math, it's like, okay, Neyria can heal 4, including Hagatha, 11. Lavek is going
one healing vein could just about do it, but the Sorcerer's Apprentice being picked up here for Lavek's a big deal, because maybe able to do that damage in clumps, which isn't fun at all.
Yeah, Sorcerer's Apprentice after an Aluneth is a vital tool that this deck has. Neyria, looking at all of his options, knows at this point that that secret is counterspell. I just feel as though Wow, okay, gonna Zola instead, freeze the Kirin Mage.
And try and find healing with the Mana Tide. They
Or
decided
freeze
that
that and then trade into...
stalling for the short term wasn't going to help enough here. So they're just going to get the cards and try and find the real healing, the healing range, which might give them a chance, especially with a biggish board.
Yeah, he's got the Volcano, which he will strangely use to proc the counterspell.
Right.
How much can Croatia do here? Cinderstorm looking pretty useless right now as there's a full board down.
They don't need it to do much though, do they?
True. It gets interesting because the Fireball is now dealing 7 to the face. The ping makes that 8.
But remember, they don't know there's no healing rain.
True.
This is a big problem for Croatia. If they just launch all that into the face and don't develop their board, healing rain would just spell disaster. So from where they're sat, they probably feel the need to develop their board.
What to do?
But if they just close their eyes and point everything at the opponent's face, they'll probably win the game.
Can there be a healing rain though? Because Neria's not played around double Fireball here.
That's a good call.
And I feel as though if he could play around double Fireball, he would have played around
That would only be
double
12 though, right?
Time runs out on me.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So maybe he has.
That's true.
So yeah, they're feeling the need to develop board because of the possibility of healing rain.
The power is here. You need only to see it.
That's not a healing rain, but it is a redraw. That is indeed a Pyro Blast.
And Frostbolt and a 0-mana Arcane
Sure.
Missiles. Obviously, Sorcerer's Apprentice is not going to survive through this turn.
Yeah, she has a habit of that.
And again, Neria may not feel comfortable playing Hagatha because that would mean killing off the Manatide Totem,
Right.
making it more difficult to draw that fabled healing rain. So Life Drinker healing for 3 might be the best he's got.
This could be one of the biggest upsets of all time in HGG.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
And I think this is one of the biggest mismatches from the start of all time. And Croatia have dug deep, and they have got every chance by not giving up in that Hunter match of getting this done. But it's still not over. Both Sorcerer's Apprentices have now gone. That's a big deal. Or could be a big deal. Nothing's a big deal at all if Ukraine don't heal very soon.
So Fireball, Frostbolt, plus Arcane Missiles, if all 3 go face, is 12, then Hero Power is 13. It's not 15, which is how much Neria has.
So many very similar choices available here.
With 1 more mana, a second Fireball from the Glyph would be lethal. But again, 9 mana, can't quite do that.
So yeah, they haven't really been given a chance to
So close.
not play around Healing Rain anyway. Their hand is full of burns, so they've just got to spend all their damage and burn things.
More.
Decided to use the missiles rather than the ping there, even though it wasted damage in the long run. That's a Healing Rain as Dan gasps.
Okay, so now the question for Neria is what does he want to get counterspelled? Because he could play Volcano and then Healing Rain. Or he could play Farsight, let that get counterspelled, and then cast Healing Rain and also play...
I think you want the life drink on the board, but are you Volcanoing next turn? Do you think they have another counterspell? If you think next turn your opponent makes a board and counterspell, then...
That's fine because, well, that should be fine because when Neria plays the Life Drinker, he will get another spell added to his hand.
Right, but if he goes the other way, if he doesn't want to do it that way,
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Volcano and the Overload and stuff, you don't... Yeah, maybe the spell's okay.
Okay, we're going a Life Drinker route.
This way makes more sense in general.
Yeah, I was going to say, playing the Life Drinker last is wrong, isn't it? So does that first. Before the Healing Rain, and now... Crushing Hand, probably not going to do all that much. I guess if there's a second counterspell, it can proc that.
If he can draw another Healing Rain very soon,
Yeah, right.
he's in a good spot, right?
But that's
At the
the
moment,
issue.
he's in trouble.
Lavec has so much damage in his hand. 13 with a Pyroblast and Frostbolt, but 2 Primordial Glyphs, which... I mean, I'm looking at those and I'm looking at 2 Fireballs. There's also Life Drinker, which is another 3 damage on top of all of that.
There's also a counterspell, which although it's not going to actually proc anything important, is eating up Ukraine's mana. So their attempts to try and establish a board and heal up are just going to be stymied by the fact that they have to play around the counterspells at the same time. So even to heal up now would cost 8 mana.
Yep.
What else are they going to do that turn? clearing the way from the minions, because their own repeated minion damage is important. They are down to very few cards now.
Heck's not going to do anything. But second fireball drawn for Croatia. Those glyphs could so easily find lethal.
Yeah, and Ukraine looking like they're not going to be able to stabilize. This is absolutely insane. I mean,
Insane.
One time.
Insane.
And I mean, what else can you do?
So yeah, got to put the counterspell and then I guess Volcano the board. Which card is more valuable, Crushing Hand or Hex? Which one does he not want?
Crushing Hand's cheaper.
It is.
Future, if they want to try and kill something and make things happen all in one turn.
I guess.
I guess you protect your cheaper card.
The overload's sort of an issue though.
I mean, none of this is fun and none of this is nice, but if they want to have one swing turn, I guess having the 2-drop in hand is more likely to generate that swing turn.
All right, Lorinda. Is it Glyph time or is it Pyroblast time? I think it's Glyph time because the glyphs together could be lethal this turn. But
You're looking at maybe Mana Worm into Glyph into Keysmith, just to try and get a million counter spells, one after another. They're nearly out of damage. Your Mana Worm's got to do damage. They're nearly out of cards.
it's such a hard turn.
They've got enough damage just about.
Yeah.
If Ukraine can find that other heal, they will probably win. But if you can find another counterspell to mess them about even more.
No, you're right. That Keysmith is invaluable. That's not damage. Well, I mean, Shifting Scroll could be.
Just get yourself 2 Shudder Walks and go. That's what I say.
That's true, actually. I haven't even been thinking about what happens if Shadowwalk's drawn. Obviously, at the moment,
Oh,
it's overloaded, but
there's
there's
some
Fireball.
damage.
Oh. Okay, so cheap Fireball plus ping is doable?
Interesting that they took Fireball, not Pyro there. I know it's slower to kill them. Maybe they're scared of actually just dying if they take too many turns.
Now, Ukraine have to play around every secret in the Mage class?
Yep. Well, it all comes down to this, as they say in other events.
We're saying it in our event.
We are. Can he draw Healing Rain from the Pyro?
All right. Gonna be very glad that that's not Explosive Rune. Pyromancer's not gonna do all that.
Oh
much,
my goodness!
Oh, wow!
Is it enough? I think it might be.
Okay, well, Healing Rain can be played with the Crushing Hand, as that was not a counterspell or an Explosive Rune. Neyria still looking like he's in an okay position. Unfortunately, the Pyromancer will itself die, but it has done its job without a doubt. Ukraine going back up to 19 health, and Croatia starting to fatigue themselves in a big way.
So they've taken 1 fatigue so far, right?
Yep.
Next turn they take 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 14. If Neyria can survive for 2 turns, so the next Levek turn and the one after, then he will win the game. There's a lot of damage coming in those 2 turns. They do have a Volcano available, so they can't be hurt by minions. How much burn damage is in hand? I only see 16 plus 2 pings, which is 18.
Yeah, that's all I see as well.
I see the Volcano clearing up, I think.
So because of that, Lavek is going to have to try and rely on minions.
Which isn't going to happen because Volcano, and I think that Ukraine might win this by 1 health.
All because that Pyromancer, with Hagatha's help, conjured up the Healing Rain.
Healing Rain.
Yeah, gonna go Fireball, and then dump 2 of the minions. I'm guessing Keysmith and Pyromancer go down.
You might go Pyromancer.
Ooh,
Oh, you
wait.
go Keysmith into counter.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
But they haven't got the time.
Uh,
Yeah, this is what they're trying to do. They're
What?
trying because they've got to do 13 next turn.
yeah, but Keysmith into counterspell with Pyromancer on the board as.
Revel in the power.
Ah, no, you're right. It wasn't quite enough, was it?
And Volcano will get this done. And Dan, what do you make of this?
I'm completely speechless. What a way to end the first day of the Hearthstone Global Games.
Neyria's look on his face is one of, did we just do that? Did we actually deserve this?
This has been a series full of winning unfavored matchups. It's been a big surprise from Croatia, just quite how well they've done. As you said, this is one of the biggest mismatched matchups in the tournament in terms of having one of the best teams versus one of the lesser-known teams. But at the end of the day, Neyria, Team Ukraine, take it away. I want to say unsurprisingly, but wow, that was a series.